Derby County face a huge summer rebuild in the transfer window, whatever division they do stay in. But if they are to stay in the Championship, could we see John Eustace head back to his former employers, Blackburn Rovers, to pick up some quality talent? Now, they have a ton of players out of contract, as well as some players who are at the end of their loan spells, who John Eustace could potentially chase down this summer. Now, obviously, there's the likes of Andreas Weimann, Adam Forshaw, Danny Bath, who all could potentially be out of contract this summer. But there's also players like Ryan Hedges, Tyrhys, Dolan and Lewis Travis, who I believe could have a bigger chance of joining Derby County. Now, Ryan Hedges this season has made 41 appearances, scoring 1 goal, collecting 2 assists across the course of a range of different positions. Now, at 29 years old, is he the type of player that Derby County will want to bring in? That's a question for another day. Now, Tyrese Dolan at 23 years old is coming up to the end of his contract expiration, and this season he's made 43 appearances with 7 goals and 6 assists. And just 23 years old, he could come and be a shining light for Derby County in those wide areas, but he can also play through the middle as well. Now, Lewis Travis is one of those Blackburn Rovers players who is not out of contract this summer, but at 27 years old, and with Blackburn Rovers unknown of where they're going to be next season. Obviously, at the moment, they could still potentially end up in those playoff positions. Is he a player who Derby County could potentially chase after? Now, this season, he's made 37 appearances, scoring twice and collecting just 1 assist, but he can play a whole host of different positions. Now, obviously, for Derby County, if we look at the current squad that Derby County have, we know there is a few problems for Derby. At the end of this season, a vast majority of this squad is going to be gone due to the end of their contracts or end of their loan spells, and Derby County are going to have to replace them. Now, obviously, when you look at certain players, especially in those wide areas, when we're talking about the likes of Ryan Hedges or the likes of Tyrese Dolan, you look at someone like Corey Blackett-Taylor, you look at Caden Jackson, you look at Tom Barkhazen, you look at Mendes Lang in the current Derby County squad, and you ask yourself the question, is Tyrese Dolan better than them? And in my opinion, the answer to that question is absolutely yes. Tyrese Dolan is an unbelievable football player, and this season he's shown that once again. And I do believe that if we go back to when John Eustace joined Derby County, Tyrese Dolan was one of those players at Blackburn who made it clear what an impact John Eustace has had on him and how that impacted this time in his career. At still 23 years old, he's had a wide range of championship experience, especially if we look at his entire history. Tyrese Dolan, he's played over 218 fixtures, including some FA Youth Cup games and some Premier League 2 appearances, but he's made so many senior appearances, 209 for Blackburn's first team, 26 goals and 22 assists across the course of 190 championship appearances. Now, I personally believe that if we were able to bring in a player like Tyrese Dolan, it will help Derby County move into that next level and to be able to compete with some of those teams higher up in the division. I think this season, the problem that we've had is, as much as Mendes Lang was brilliant in League One, as much as Caden Jackson started the season in a really good fashion and Corey Blackett-Taylor has shown glimpses of greatness, we just haven't seen enough consistency. And don't get me wrong, Tyrese Dolan isn't necessarily someone who's going to come in and score you 20 goals a season, but he's going to have an impact on the play and he's going to have an impact on goal scoring, on chance creation, and I think that's exactly what Derby County need. Now, obviously then you look at someone like Lewis Travis, who obviously you look at Derby County's midfield options at the moment, obviously Jeff Hendrick, you look at David Ozo, Harrison Armstrong, Liam Thompson, Kenzo Haldmine, Ebro Adams and Ben Osborne. Now, obviously Jeff Hendrick is out of contract, so is Liam Thompson. Ozo and Armstrong are looking set to leave at the end of their loan spells, so it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. Now, obviously when we look at Lewis Travis, he's just 27 years of age, and for me, he's been a very, very good player for Blackburn Rovers across the course of this season and even across the course of his entire career, everywhere that he's played, really. And I'm not going to say that he's going to be Derby County's... I'm not going to say he's going to go and sign for Derby County this summer. He might not. It might be in a season's time. But at 27 years old, he could come in and add some proper championship experience to that midfield at Derby County. And I think that's something which we should certainly be looking for. Now, if we look at his career as a whole, obviously made the majority of his time at Blackburn Rovers, but also spent time at Liverpool, made 9 appearances for Ipswich. I believe that was last season. And his career, he's made 241 appearances, 8 goals, 11 assists, can play pretty much anywhere across midfield, can play left back, right back and in centre back. So for me, he's a very, very good player. Yes, he's valued at around €3.5 million, but with just a year left on his contract, and there is no talk of a player or club option to make that 2 years. So there is the possibility that Derby County could make an offer this summer for the Blackburn Rovers captain, which could open the door for John Eustace to bring back two of his most influential players from that Blackburn Rovers side, which he pushed into the playoffs. Now, realistically, is John Eustace going to do that? The answer to the question is we don't know. Now, there has been a lot of talk since Derby County took John Eustace from Blackburn Rovers that Tyrhys Dolan being out of contract, if Derby County were to stay up, that's a move that he will make. Now, we can't say for certainty that will happen, but there has been a lot of speculation surrounding the opportunity, and I do think that Derby County is a very, very good prospect for any player at the moment. Should we stay in the division, obviously, I think it's a very, very good prospect. You look at some of the players that we've already got in the building. I think Kenzo next season is going to blow up and be an amazing prospect. I think you even look at sort of the forward line, having a full season of Corey Blackett-Taylor under a proper manager, I think will be very, very good. And now we don't even know what we're going to bring in this summer, but if we stay up, we probably keep hold of Kane Wilson. We probably keep hold of Matt Clark. And then you look at conversations around Sondre Langash, Jake Rooney. Like, there's so many opportunities going forward that Derby County could do. And if you bring in a Tyrese Dolan to this current squad, he's a starter on that right-hand side for me. If you bring in a Lewis Travis, in my opinion, would probably be a starter in the midfield over a potential Liam Thompson. Now, Ryan Hedges isn't necessarily a player who I think Derby County are going to sign this summer, but if there is an opportunity, there is no reason why we shouldn't take a look at it and have the conversation, because it's played for a range of different clubs. Obviously Blackburn, Stevenage, Swansea, Leyton Orient, Yeovil Town, Barnsley, Aberdeen, and obviously Blackburn. And he's unbelievably versatile. He can play on the right, he can play on the left, he can play through the middle. Obviously made the majority of his appearances on the right hand side, making 89 appearances as a right winger with 12 goals and 14 assists. Now, if we look at his stats by competition, 143 championship appearances with 9 goals and 11 assists. Now, if we can bring in a player with that sort of versatility, I'm not saying he's going to be the be-all and end-all and completely change where we could potentially see ourselves finishing, but it certainly offers a brilliant option off the bench. And I've spoke about it a lot this season with the likes of someone like Kane Wilson, who can play all the way up the right-hand side, he can play on the left. You've got someone like Liam Thompson, who can play as a left wing-back, can play in midfield. You look then in the forward line, you look at someone like Marcus Harness, can play as a second striker, can play as a number 8, a number 10, can play on either wing. And I think those sort of players are massive, massive for your team. You've even got Ben Osborne, who can play centrally and on wing back, in the wing back positions or on left midfield. And I think those players are massively important. They're never going to be sort of your number one option. They're never going to be the player that you turn to when you need a goal or you need someone to create a chance. But the ability to play across positions is massive, especially when you have injuries. And that's been Derby County's problem this season, is we haven't had enough of those players who can sort of move around positions. And that's something that we need to find, in my opinion, heading into next season. And could Ryan Hedges be that man? Could Tyrese Dolan be that man? Obviously, another player who can play anywhere in those forward positions as a 10, second striker, a number 9, can play left and right as well. So these are obviously positions which Derby County could cover. And then you've obviously got Travis as well, who can play a range of different positions across the course of midfield and obviously in the back four. So will Derby County attempt to bring any of these players in? I'm not entirely sure. I think if we stay in the division, a move for Tyrese Dolan is an absolutely perfect one for Derby County. Has a brilliant relationship with John Eustace already and could potentially see himself be sort of the main man at Derby County. And at 23 years old, I think he's at the perfect time in his career to be able to do that. Lewis Travis, I think, is a little bit more difficult. I think he could be an expensive one if that opportunity does arise. But you can obviously let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you think Derby County are going to pick any of these players up? If not, who do you think they are going to sign? Let me know what positions you think Derby County should be focused on down in the comments. And if you have not done so already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned for all of your latest Derby County content, news, previews, and reviews heading your way across the course of the off season. Obviously, we're getting ever closer to that as well. So let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll catch you in the next one.